What's going on, Workforce? Brian and Chris here, and we're going to talk a little bit of a break for Final Fantasy XIV to talk about Diablo Immortal, the current state of the game, the current state of monetization, the current state of internet outrage. I kind of covered this a little bit over on my personal channel, Ginger Prime. Chris and I kind of talked about Diablo Immortal behind the scenes, and we thought, what better way to kind of bring this conversation to you guys, get your thoughts on this specific topic, because it is a trending topic day after day after day. And yeah, there's definitely some thoughts we have here on this. I'm gonna quote here a tweet from Michael, aka Belluar Gaming, talking about one of his comments that he's seen on it. But before we dive into that comment, Chris, I would like to get your thoughts, let you speak your piece on the state of Diablo Immortal. Clearly you're excited about this one. What are you thinking, man?
So in 2019, at the last in-person BlizzCon that they were ever apparently going to have, you and I got a chance to play Diablo Immortal.
Yeah.
And much like what SkillUp said later when they let it out to a test market and he got a chance to try it, where it was just the beta, just the gameplay only. That's all that existed. It was an inherently good game. It was fun.
Yeah, the gameplay was fun.
As gameplay goes, I don't have time when I'm at home, I'm out and about, I just want to play for a little bit. It was nice. To people who maybe aren't into full action RPGs, it's a little overwhelming to get into Path of Exiles, Wolfen, Torchlight, all this crap. They're like, it's a little much. It was simple to understand, very easy to play, and so you could easily maybe have friends or family in your life that try the game out and then say, okay, well, based on that, is there a way to play a more complex version? Music's kind of loud.
My music?
Uh-huh.
Oh, okay.
And so is there a way to take that into a more full-featured gameplay experience? And the answer is yeah, absolutely. And so then you could invite them into standard Diablo games. So as a bridge between traditional core gamers and the mobile gaming market, I was all on board gameplay-wise. As a monetization set of practices, mobile games are known for certain monetization things. As somebody that likes
have a reputation.
Mobile games, I like mobile games. I play several mobile games. They pop up the little offers when I log in and all that. I'm used to this. And as a Final Fantasy fan,
and how long have you been doing mobile games? Just to set that example, because this isn't new. Diablo, not giving Diablo Immortal any kind of slack here, but you've been playing mobile games for what, 5 years, less or more, give or take?
So, I have been playing mobile games since whatever point in history bandwidth was no longer the issue.
Okay.
When I first got a smartphone, and had this opportunity to get into this, I had trouble getting into these mobile games that wanted me to connect out because data was expensive. But as we've moved to where now I work from home, so I spend all my time on Wi-Fi, but it's become a bigger and bigger part of my life. And so it's something I check in on every morning when I wake up, and it's just part of my day. Like many people do the Wordle or maybe a crossword in a newspaper. It's just part of my day. It's something I do. And it's something I check in with. And I play everything from little puzzle games that I check in with from time to time to very traditional, Raid Shadow Legends, Lords Mobile, Clash of Clans style games. I've played a number of them over the years. I've even done a sponsorship on the channel, and one of the ones that I do play regularly reached out and said, hey, would you want to tell people about this game and we'll pay you? And I was like, would I tell people about this game I already tell them about that I already play?
Sure.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, absolutely. I want, just like wherever I'm going to go to lunch after stream, if they want to pay me to tell people that that's where I ate instead of me paying them to eat there, that seems easy.
Today I ate at Torchy's Tacos.
Reach out whenever you want, Torchy's. I'm here. Until then, I will warn you, if you don't sponsor me, I will pay you. That is my threat.
That is my threat. It's my promise.
If you're tired of receiving my money, reach out. So I'm fine with this.
Right.
Now, all of that was a giant precursor to what SkillUp said in his review of the gameplay only, long before we got a chance to see this. We have yet to see what this game's going to be monetized like. Now, I downloaded the game and we were a day behind on PC. I downloaded the game. It's 25 gigs on PC. And I wanted it on PC because I was like, well, maybe I'll play it on stream or something. So I want it here.
Right.
Great. We'll have some fun with it. Got busy that day, June 2nd or whatever it was. And then I watched a couple videos. I watched a little bit of Asmon's stream as he was having fun, dropping a little money, and he was making light of it. 800% value. I don't want to lose money. And like everybody was having a good time. And then as it started to be a little less playful and started to show itself a little more, and people started to do the math and say, man, to theoretically get best in slot, kind of, you would need to spend like $10,000 if you were lucky. Oh, wait, it's not $10,000, it's $50,000. Oh, it's not $50,000, it's $100,000. And it could be as much as $300,000. And you started to just see this, and that there wasn't like a pity system, which gacha games are kind of known as having, where it's like, here's the luck portion, but like, should your luck fail, kind of like the totems in Final Fantasy XIV's Extremes, at some point, we're just going to give it to you because like, we want you to keep playing and not hate us. And we're not so about money that like, we don't want you to have a good time. What do we care? If you're having fun, have fun. As long as we're making money, we're willing for you to have fun. Yeah. That's why that pity system exists, is they allow us to have fun because they already got their money.
Yeah.
That doesn't exist here. This is just like, they got their money and they don't care if you're having fun. And so they're willing to just let you slowly fall deeper and deeper into this. And so without even booting the game up, this took such a turn so fast that like I uninstalled. I literally never fired it up off the launcher. I downloaded it and went through an entire emotional journey and then uninstalled without ever having to actually boot the game.
Yeah. The only the issue from a gameplay perspective on PC right now is controller support isn't good. But for if you play controller support on mobile, then you're good to go. And that actually in a way kind of saved me from kind of going down that rabbit hole, because I was like, all right, yeah. And then I was like, oh man, this feels awful. And then I went keyboard and mouse on PC and I was like, oh yeah, there's that good gameplay, the loop and feeling. And then obviously as all the free to play stuff comes out, the thing that I come out to is like, we're going to jump into this comment post here, just as a form of discussion, but legitimately, like when I look at the numbers, I was like, wow, that's pretty bad. At least I was like, okay, well, if you just kind of play and click and you're not going to spend money, then you're good. Mobile games aren't anything new. And that's something that I think a comment will actually respond to this tweet here in a bit. It's like, listen, this isn't new, but I would say that it is actually new for Diablo. And that's why I think we're seeing a bigger part of the backlash, because insert new game that's just a mobile game and it doesn't have a huge nostalgic presence, while there are Final Fantasy gotchas and things like that. Like, I think essentially what you end up having is this is Activision Blizzard building up on all the struggle that it's had over the last year plus, and then it just is like, gosh, come on, like gamers want to root for Diablo and for Activision Blizzard, and then yet they're not given any slack to. But I retweeted Michael's tweet here with the phrase that if only gamer outrage didn't serve to promote these games and make these companies money even more. And that's the aspect of what social media sees. I highly anticipate, if it gets out of hand, that we'll see Activision Blizzard come in and make some adjustments, which is a whole nother round of marketing, which is a whole nother round of hype. But regardless, they've already profited off of people like Colin here. And so let's jump into his comment specifically, because I think it's really kind of interesting and telling. He says, I'm quite embarrassed to say that I was sucked in. I brought the game, what little the game had to offer, and I bought the battle pass and some other small things. And when you start completing more content, the bundles keep coming with even greater rewards, and it sucks you in. After a few days, I was seeing such insane powerful players that no matter what I did to do the grind, that there was no way to keep up. You almost felt the pressure to play and stay in the running. I've had addiction issues my whole life, and I generally feel like I was preyed on. The gameplay was so impressive that I thought I'd be playing the game for years, and now after a week I generally feel gross logging in, and I've been completely fooled out of my money and to lure to a never-ending endgame dopamine chase that requires more and more money for each hit. I generally can't believe something like this was supposed to be playing for fun has turned out to be a systematic targeting of my vulnerabilities for profit and for others. Gaming was my happy place, and now I'm not safe there anymore. I would argue that, especially in an online game, people trying to make an online game a safe space like that's a delusion that you're only setting yourself up to have your day ruined and wrecked. But that's just my 2 cents on it. Do you have any thoughts on what he stated in his comment?
I think the moment you venture outside of your home, whether it be online or in the physical world, the risk factors ratchet up rapidly. Mm-hmm. People can target you in your home, And so the moment you venture online, those risk factors dial up rapidly. The way I follow this is that you begin to learn who you can and can't trust as developers and as publishers, and that becomes your kind of walled garden. That rather than try to police the internet at large, there are companies that are known for acting certain ways. And so you might have feelings about, on your spectrum of what's okay and what's not within monetization, on where Genshin Impact falls versus where Final Fantasy 14 falls versus where, you know, Zelda falls and how they're monetized. Zelda, I mean, it's hard to give Nintendo money and they don't take it very often. Final Fantasy has a cash shop. Genshin Impact asks you for money and they just say, well, you tell us when to stop. And so there is a spectrum of that, and you decide which publishers and developers you like. And within that, as long as you're having fun and you're able to do it safely and reasonably, where it's not causing harm to you and your family, and you're not at risk of not making your mortgage payment and so on, that's great. What I think Colin is struggling with is that what happens when that person you trusted screws you?
Yeah. I think that's happens, what this is.
Right? This isn't I've never played a mobile game and I tried one and got screwed. It's a company that has gone into genres before and released their own version, like Hearthstone. Hearthstone asks for money in the same way that other trading card games do, but they don't, in my opinion, unfairly monetize it. And so if you're even remotely familiar with the trading card game genre and you're even remotely familiar with Blizzard, I think the overlap there from my perspective is relatively fair. I mean, anybody who's ever played Magic and you have to buy a new box every edition, like you're used to there kind of being an ongoing cost with it. It kind of is what it is. Same with World of Warcraft, right? There's a subscription and then there's a cash shop. Honestly, Final Fantasy operates in a very similar method. Now, do you trust them to manage those resources? That's up to you. But like within the spectrum of MMOs, they're not doing anything just crazy deceitful. I think what feels gross here is that we understand that mobile games have a certain monetization. This seems to be way on the far end of that. And so I think that's where Colin is right. I think, you know, like I trusted the overlap between Blizzard and mobile games to be some version of the two, but that's not what this is. This seems to have taken it way out past what anybody else has been doing within the mobile space. Like, this is gross.
So as we explore some of the other comments here, Wardio says, I'm sorry, but free-to-play games just didn't pop up yesterday. They existed for over 10 years now. Free-to-play is the highest grossing business in gaming, and people get warned on the daily. The dude quoted uses Twitter, so... No, he doesn't use Twitter. This isn't a Twitter thread. That's from a comment on a YouTube video. But he knows how to use the internet. He walked into his eyes wide open, not a victim. And I like what John said with the thing here. This tweet right here, just as a meme. But what Wario is kind of getting at is that in this regards, especially with Activision Blizzard, we've seen this continual move in this direction for them. So in terms of like, you know, looking at kind of like Colin, you know, kind of trying to even out the kind of the hate here in terms of Colin's approach, is that if he went in with this, he went in eyes wide shut, you know, like literally just blinded to everything else that's been going on, you know, within the industry, especially as when people say like Blizzard has changed, it's like you can see over the course of time, you have Blizzard, and then it's the same name of the company, but if you feel like it's operating exactly like it did 10 years ago, well then you're either not paying attention or you don't want to admit it. And that's one of the things that we see happen whenever Activision Blizzard does something that hits the news. They are so massive, there are so many eyes on them, and essentially when you have this kind of aspect, it's like, I think, you know, Colin walked into a free-to-play game. And essentially what Diablo Immortal does that I think is very deceptive is that it doesn't ask you for money until you're all like, it doesn't really say, hey, here's this monetary system. It happens as you've already invested in time. And then it goes, hey, what about a little hit? You know, now that you've already got to level 50 or level, you know, like now that you're already really like invested in this game, then all of a sudden it opens its door up. And that to me speaks very heavily of Activision as a company. Like when you look at how they've introduced their cash shop in monetization, when it comes into play with when it comes clearly into play with the Call of Duty. Like Call of Duty legitimately released the game, had it reviewed, all the reviews are like, oh, this is great. And then a couple weeks later, here's our battle pass, here's our cash shop, here's our pay to win. Ha ha ha. You know, like for me, as somebody who follows gaming, like I'm not shocked by Activision Blizzard.
I think that's the problem, is these systems on their own, right? This idea of like, well, if you get these chests and then you have to like pay to unlock them or what you get in them, that system exists in Guild Wars. It does. And so like these black lion chests, like you pay for the keys, or you occasionally get one little key and then you see how good it is. It's like, well, you could buy more. Yeah. And the like go into the shop once a day to get this reward. That isn't common across the mobile industry. So like a lot of these, like if you're a diverse gamer, you play a lot of different types of games, and you've seen games who have been told by the population they're not allowed to increase the base price of games since they were set in like 1990. Like we moved to $60 games in the 90s, and they haven't been allowed to adjust those prices, because the moment PlayStation's like, we might try $70 games, people are like, whoa, you're terrible. So like, because they're not allowed to see an inflation, a cost of living adjustment in their price of games, every game developer and publisher has had to explore other methods to find the one. Yeah. And they're like, hey, what way would you like it to be monetized? And gamers are typically like, well, I don't want it monetized. Okay, well then I guess we'll keep trying things until we find out which ones you guys complain the least about. Because yeah, we'd all love to game for free, but that's just not how it works. And so they've all tried different things, and different games have varying success with different pay models, because different pay models feel appropriate. On one hand, what you described with Activision, the idea of, well, why don't you play it first and then we'll talk about money? That doesn't sound unfair when you phrase it like that.
Right. And then it's like, oh, okay, well, and it's just fascinating, because it isn't anything new, and it is something that is like, I made the case that Diablo Immortal needed to be on phones, because in terms of like market share, you're just kind of giving it up to everybody else. And then essentially, like, I still think that we're going to see another round of, you know, monetization changes, and then it's going to, you know, like, but it's like, I still will not be surprised, like here in a month, that they come out and be like, Diablo Immortal, the most downloaded game, the most profitable game for Activision Blizzard. Step aside Candy Crush Saga, you know, Diablo Immortal's got the like the freaking like crown of it now, and that just tells me like all the outrage is free promotion. Like it's just, and thus I don't have a good end of this video for me, end of the story, because it's like, well, what do you do? Like the weirdest thing to do if you wanted to actually hurt Diablo Immortal is to not talk about it.
That's why I didn't.
I know.
I didn't make a video for gaming, kinda. I uninstalled. Yeah. I didn't play it on stream and complain about it. I didn't hate play it. I haven't gone and watched guides on it, so I'm not giving any eyeballs to the content creators who are enjoying it. I don't hate their joy, but from my perspective, I'm not going to self-perpetuate it. But you asked if I wanted to talk about it with you today, and sure, I'll collab on it. But like, that's my opinion on it. Is then don't play it.
Yeah.
It's the same way I don't play other Blizzard products. Like if you don't like them for any number of reasons, whether you don't like them ethically or you just don't like the gameplay, then don't play it.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, we send the same message to Square Enix by not playing some of their titles that fall outside of what we've now defined as their traditional business model. And the response was to sell those off. So whether it be because you don't like the game or because you don't like the way the game's being run, either way, the answer is don't play it. So if you don't like this, don't play it. So when you see streamers saying like, I tried putting $10,000 in to see if it dropped. On one hand, there's like an investigative reporting on that. On the other hand, they're going to want that $10,000 back. And so they're covering that game publicly to make that money, to talk bad about it to a population that is encouraged to go, well, not Flappy. They're going to Flappy Bird it, right?
Oh,
this
Flappy
game is
Bird
so bad.
Yeah.
This game is so bad, I can't not play it.
Well, it's going to hit. It's going to hit every mainstream article and things like that. That's going to have like everybody who we know, once it goes mainstream. Hey, I downloaded this, guys. Do we want to play it? I heard it gets crazy monetization, but that's just how it is. It's like, I'm just waiting for my mom to ask me, should I download this game?
It's particularly rough. I thought it would be bad. I went in, I downloaded it with expectations that I've played some of the Square Enix mobile games, and they ask you for money. Like I said, I play mobile games. I could boot one up right now, and I promise there would be an ad on the screen as the opening thing. When I log in, the first thing you see, and sometimes it lets you interact with your base for a minute. It takes a second for the ad to load, and you click, and they always know that the place where you're going to click, that's where they put the buy button. So thankfully, Apple has a thing that like goes, are you sure you want to buy? And I'm like, no. But like you can have settings on some phones and stuff where like that would just spend your money. And that has to be by design. So like, and I play that game anyway. So I went in with expectations of they're going to ask for my money. Nothing is free. This whole idea of like Halo Infinite was $500 million pre-marketing budget. And they're like, yeah, they're just giving it away. Yeah, because Microsoft just wants to make the world happy. They don't have shareholders or anybody that they pay salaries to. They're just out there. They're one of the best circulated charities out there. Oh, wait, they are a business. So like that's why I argued against free. People are like, wow, you just don't like people having fun. That's why you don't want Halo to be free. No, I don't want Halo to be free because my experience is that free means they're going to ask for the money another way. And I don't want to go to a restaurant where they're just going to be like nickel and diming me on the valet. And then I go to use the bathroom and they're like, oh, you wanted to dry your hands? Oh, you got to pay for the paper towels. No, just put the menu on the door. Tell me how much the food is. I'll pay you when I walk in. And that's fine. And then I just want to sit down and enjoy my meal. That's how I prefer to enjoy games. Is let me pay on the front end so that we don't have to have this conversation later. Because I don't enjoy the later conversation.
Right. Exactly. Do you want to talk about something more fun now?
Yeah.
All right, guys. Thanks so much for watching this video. We're going to talk about our impressions of Final Fantasy 14's patch 6.15 in the next video. So be sure to hit subscribe, like, and share, and jump into the next video when you see it, especially as a good palate cleanser for all that plagues you within the freemium and the free-to-play world. But for Brian and Chris, thanks so much for watching. Hopefully we'll see you in our next video. But until then,
take care.